Hello class, here's a quick little video on how we can navigate the zyLabs setups and how you can complete your lab assignments. It's a fairly straightforward process, but I just wanted to at least walk us through the first one so we can see how it all works. So I'll start here with our book. We'll go into the week 2 HTML fundamentals and we'll jump down to the first lab, the training lab. So if you have not already completed this lab, feel free to follow along and you can use this to complete your own assignment. And if you've already completed it, well, then you can just review it and make sure you've gotten your full credit for it. So typically the zyLabs, as they're called, will have multiple steps, and the steps will give you different tasks to do for each of the labs. Some of the tasks will be a little simpler, some will be a little more complicated. Some will be detailed and some will not, but in general this is kind of how it looks. So for the HTML class and the settings here, we'll be following along with the steps that they have developed for us. Basically, if you just read through it, the high-level steps are: we're going to start a web server, we're going to modify some existing HTML to add some new content, we're going to view the content, and we're going to take a look at how all the different icons and all the different settings in the lab window look like. We're going to add an image, and then we're going to see the submit for grading piece. So if you look down here at the bottom, this is your lab interface window. First thing you should do, and it says right here on the bottom, start the web server by clicking on the run button. So let's do that, and it'll take a few seconds to spin up. And eventually we'll have our web view, and it will render whatever we have in our index page. So this is our heading, the H1 tag, and here is our training lab heading down in the web view. So this is what you would see if you were browsing from a web browser. And this is the URL that you would be using. So you can open that up in a new tab, and I will do that here. And it opens up a new tab, and sure enough, there is our existing web page. So jumping back to the design window, we can reload the page, and it does like any other browser does. It goes out and reloads the existing page and displays it into the browser. We'll look more at these dev tools and other settings later on, but for now, the key thing to know is that as you make changes into your document, they are automatically reflected in the web view. Should you decide to use the other tab, you may have to reload it to have it display properly. Okay, so we can now take a look at some more features here. We have a little paperclip icon with this little 2 in here, and this is the number of files and the list of files that we have at our disposal in this particular lab. So index.html is this HTML page we're looking at now. And zybooks.png is an image file. So we have a text file, the HTML file, and we have an image file. And as we saw earlier in the instructions, we're going to be adding this image to our web page. So you can navigate back and forth as necessary. Sometimes you may have multiple HTML files that you need to edit, and you can navigate to each one. You can jump over here on the tabs to navigate to each one. You can edit them as necessary. You can't really edit the image, but you can edit the text files. If you wanted to, you can add new files, you can create folders to organize things, you can upload and download files as necessary. So all these features are available to you. Feel free to use them. When you're done, you can, if you want more real estate, you can drag this little slider and you get back your full window again. So let's scroll up and see what we have for step 1. And step 1 says start the web server, which we did by clicking on the green button. We viewed the web view tab to see what was rendered, and let me just review that one more time. Too far. Here it is. The web view tab is right here. You can also move this up and down if you want to see a little more or less. And then the open a new tab button, which we saw. And if you follow along with the instructions, here's the open a new tab button right here, which is the one we clicked on to create that new tab. Step 2 is modify the HTML. So we want to add a paragraph, so we're going to use the P tag. And here is the text we want to add. So you can either copy it yourself, or you can do a copy and paste. I just did a copy. I'll do it again so you can see. Copy. And it's telling us that after you write the new code, if you wait a little bit of time, a few seconds, not even probably, the code editor will detect the change and automatically save the file, and it will re-render that web page. So it's a very dynamic environment, meaning that as soon as you make a change, you see the results. It also states that if you did open it up into a new tab, that tab would also update, but if it ever doesn't, you can simply click that refresh button to get it to reload for you manually. So let's scroll down, we'll go into our area and we'll type in the new code. Typically you'll see these in the templates for the labs where it says to do add here or something along those lines. So we can just delete that and we can paste in our new code. And like we said, it renders automatically. Here's our result. And let's just check the other tab and see if it's there. And it is, so it reloaded automatically. It's great. So it was literally that easy to complete step 2 of the lab. Sure, they gave you all the code, but you can see how easy it is to add it and see your results right away. Step 3 says we're going to add an image. Now, we looked a minute ago at the files icon, so we could see the different files that are in there, and we want to use the image tag with these two attributes, src for source and alt for some alternate text. Now, you can see that since the index file and the image file are located in the same location, we don't need a URI or a URL to specify their path. It's in the same directory, so that's where we're going to start looking at. So let's copy this text, copy, and we're going to add it under our existing text, and we're going to see what it looks like. So we'll paste it right in here, and we'll line it up. Always good to keep your code in alignment so it's easy to read and follow. And sure enough, we can see down in the window, the zyBooks image has been displayed. Okay, so let's just go back to step 3 and make sure we did not miss any parts of this step. Change the file name from, in the HTML, from zyBooks PNG to zyBooks with the lowercase b, and we're going to see what happens to this image. So the idea here is we want to see what the results are if we change the file name. So we'll go in and we will change the capital B to a lowercase b, and we'll wait for it to re-render, and there we have the broken image icon. But we didn't get the alt text, so when the image icon or the image can't be displayed, it can't be found, we will instead show this alt text. So great. Now intuitively you're probably thinking, oh, let's change it back so it works, but that may not be what we want to do. Let's go back up to step 3 and see what the next steps are. So it's telling us the web server treats file names in a case-sensitive manner, which I just explained, and then it says change the file name back to zybooks.png. Always good to read the instructions to make sure you're doing what needs to be done in the lab. We'll change it back. You can see it says it's saving it. It just did. There's our image. Great. Step 4, submit for grading. So these labs all have a submit for grading button at the end of them. Each lab has a different number of tests that it's going to run based on your code and what the expected output is. You will get a certain number of points. So the idea here is you can click submit for grading and we will see what score we get. Now we follow all the directions up until this point, so I would expect that we see 10 out of 10, but we're not. We see 5 out of 10. And it tells you what's good and what's bad. So it tells us that this first test, everything passed, so we got our full credit for that first test. But the second test failed. It's looking at the image tag, and it's looking at the alt attribute value, and it was expecting zyBooks logo, and ours had zyBooks. So let's take a look at our code, and sure enough it says zyBooks. which is ironically exactly what they wanted here when they told us to do it. But this is just to demonstrate the fact that you can submit your lab multiple times until you get the full credit for your class, for the assignment. So let's modify it so the output matches the expected. So we're going to add the logo text as well. So we'll come back here, we'll type in logo, and it will refresh, and we will not see any difference because this is alt text and we do have a valid image. And we see our score is still 5 out of 10. Well, we need to click to submit for grading every time you make a change. And it'll rerun the tests. The first test we expect to pass, and now the second test has passed as well. We have our 10 out of 10, and we have our full credit. And that is essentially how you do your labs, and pretty much the participation and challenge activities for that matter. You may run them as many times as you like, try them as many times as you like until you get full credit. If you do get stuck, you can't figure out why it's not giving you full credit, just send me an email. I'll be happy to have a look in and see what is going on. So that was the first lab. And now you have your second and I think a third lab, maybe even a fourth. But you could see you have similar steps of things you need to do, add different pieces to it. And here again is the to-do sections and the to-do sections. And you have your tests, and you have your submit for grading button. And that's about it. Yeah, just go through it. I'm not going to do this one for you. I'll let you give this one a try. And if you have any questions, feel free to reach out. And that's it for now. Have a great rest of your day, and I'll talk to you next time.